decided to build a cabinet to hide the backs of all of my electronics and also to fit my battery monitor on. So here I'm cutting out a template on the bulkhead to fit everything. Back in the shop now to finish actually cutting out the template. My initial idea for this cabinet was to have a rounded edge on one corner as you come down the companionway, so not to bump into it, but as you'll see in upcoming shots, I failed miserably at trying to bend the wood. I tried everything, soaking it in hot water, using heat gun. The top layer of the plywood, I think it's called the veneer, kept cracking on me. Now I'm cutting out the first attempt at the cabinet face. I think I cut out 3 or 4 different ones before I gave up on trying to bend the wood. So I researched this on YouTube and watched many videos. What I'm doing here now is just cutting the bottom layers of the plywood but leaving the veneer on the top intact. You cut multiple slots through the plywood in order to weaken it and make the ability to bend it. Here you can see in the close-up where I'm cutting the slats through the wood, and you can see the veneer is still intact on the top. I think in total I cut about 15 or 20 of these slots to try and weaken the wood enough so it would bend. As you can see, when I actually applied the bend, after using some hot water and the heat gun, it just cracked the veneer on the top of the plywood. This had sat for quite some time like this with some weight on it. I think I left it overnight and then the crack formed overnight. This is my second attempt. I tried bending it much slower using some weight, and again it just ended up cracking once I was done. So if this is the wall side, there has to be that much of a gap, and you have to cut a hole like this for the hinge to fit. So if this is the wall, and this is this part of here, to clear it, you need that much space so it'll clear. And then I had to cut this little groove out so the hinge can pass through the front here, if that makes sense, because it'll only clear 5 millimeters from this point to this point. So I think this will work if this is the wall and this is the thing. It should work. So I've got the full size bracket on here now, and as you can see, the hinge system worked. Now I'm picking out or trying different fillers and different stain colors to try and match the wood that's pre-existing on the inside of the boat. I matched it pretty closely, but I ended up mixing two different kinds of stain together to try and make it work properly. Now I have to fill all the corners of the box that I built so that you can't see where the veneers join together. So I just used some wood filler and sanded it down. It actually worked really well. Where the old instruments were on the bulkhead on the cockpit, I only replaced 3 of them with new Ray Marine instruments, and there's one left over, which is just a big gaping hole. So rather than try and fill the hole, I decided to cut out like a port light, and I used the old instruments to create little windows. So basically I created a little port light that goes through the cabinet and then into the bulkhead, and you can see outside. After staining the cabinet, I just used Helmsman spar varnish from Canadian Tire. I find it works really good, but it doesn't have very good UV protectant. I had it on all the teak on the outside of the boat, and I found that it only lasted about 3 years, but this cabinet won't be exposed to the sun, so it shouldn't really make any difference. I kind of feel like I skipped a bunch of steps here, but here's the finished product. And you can see that it flips down. And all I did to attach the cabinet was Sikaflex that panel to the bulkhead. And then I used this little, one of those cabinet latches to hold it in place. But the back panel is only Sikaflex to the wall. I still wanted to be able to access all my wiring, so I put an inverter in here that runs to a plug that's on the outside of the cabinet for charging phones and whatnot. You can also see my battery monitor and the little port light that I put in. The switches in the top left corner there are for controlling the cabin lights. The top switch controls all the lights in the cabin, so I don't have to go all the way to the panel to turn them on, and the bottom switch actually controls the red lighting for the cabin. I forgot to take video of this, so there's just a photograph, but I mounted my Samsung tablet to be used with Navionics. So it basically is on a swivel mount, so I can use it either inside the cabin or swivel it to the outside, as you can see here, and view it from the cockpit. I also set it up so I could have the bottom companionway door in, so to stop water from coming in if it's raining, and close the hatch, and that way I can still view it from the cockpit. Well, that's the end of this project. Thanks for watching.